Hi, I'm aJack. In this video, I'm going to show you some advanced tips on how to build a house in my perspective, improving your building skill from a potato level to aesthetic level. Over the year, I have been making aesthetic farm tutorials and I have learned a lot during the process. If you compare my Iron Farmhouse 2.0 to the latest 4.0 version, you can see the improvement in many aspects. Minecraft might be just a block building game for kids, but it takes more than experience to make something to look good. Disclaimer: I'm not a professional architect or engineer, but I really believe that the building technology in real life is more relevant than you thought. So let's talk about how I build a house on Minecraft. Before we jump into the tutorial, do you know what's more important than building a house on Minecraft? Of course, we need a safe place to build and share our ideas with our friends. I think we all deserve appreciation for all the time and hard work collecting materials and building the house. There is nothing more exciting than checking your friends' build and showing your love. That's why you have to check out Pine Hosting. Pine Hosting is a stable and high-performance server provider with affordable prices and global server locations. It's super easy to use and you can make a Minecraft server in just minutes. You can switch to different versions instantly with just a few clicks. With this super clean and simple mod pack and plugin installer, you can pick all the mods you need in no time. Got a server with another provider? Don't worry, they will personally help you move your server from another host. Other than Minecraft hosting, they also offer a wide range of games from Rust to Ark. On top of all those benefits, you can get a 30% off discount with my code aJackMC. There is no time to waste. Get the server and build with your friends now. Remember to use the link in the description below to help support my channel. Alright, first thing first, we should define what is a house. We may all agree that a house is a structure with walls and with a roof on top. There should be at least one entrance and perhaps some windows. But when we look back at the history, we have human civilization on every continent for thousands of years. Different age, different technology. All the houses had different function, shape, and material. The design was based on the location, climate, and the natural resources they could get at that time. That's why the first step is to plan and research. Think about what you want to build and what kind of vibe you like. A village, town, castle, industrial age, modern city, eastern or western. Then go look for reference photo on Google. Use keywords like structure, country, biome, time period to narrow down the search results. Once you find the photo that is close to your imagination, pay attention to the shape of the house and the roof, study the size and the general material used. This is the perfect way to get the impression on how the house looks like in real life. By the way, it's not ideal to take reference from the fake AI images. To get rid of those, you could simply add before 2020 along with your keywords. AI images are just not good reference for beginner in my opinion. When I build a house, I always think the house structure is the most important part. That's because when we build a house in real life, the workers start with the foundation and the frame. After the frame, they add the floor, wall, and the roof to the frame. The frame is like the bone structure in human body and it supports everything. Even though there is no gravity on most blocks on Minecraft, our brain can actually tell us the weight of each block when we look at it. Like stone bricks looks heavier than planks, and plants looks heavier than the leaves.
But steel's heavier than feathers.
This also explains why it hurts our brain when we see a floating tree. Make sure your house is well supported by a frame made of beams and pillars. If you look at artists' how to build a house tutorial, they like to tell you to make a random shape as the house layout. The problem is that the interior space could be really difficult to use. It could be too small or having too many corners. That's why I think about the house purpose and the interior space before I design a house. If it's just a decorative house for your base, then you can ignore the interior space and focus on the exterior look. If your house serves a purpose, then you should reserve enough interior space for that. Like when I design aesthetic farm, I always work on the interior first, which is the essential part of the farm. Then I build a frame and wall around the farm to cover it. That's why it's important to know what you want to do with the house and how big the interior you need. The interior size has a great psychological impact on people's mind. We feel stressed in a confined space, and we might feel insecure in a room with too much space. Let's talk about the width of the interior. For the interior of a typical house, I would say 5 to 7 blocks wide is the most comfortable range to start with. Anything more or less than that is either too wide or too narrow. unless you are doing mega builds like a big castle hall or a cathedral. 3 blocks wide is too small for anything. 5 blocks wide is my favorite as it is easy to decorate and the upper floor is well supported. 7 blocks wide has more space in the middle, but the upper floor is stretched away from the wall and frame. It feels like the wood planks is barely hanging there. 9 blocks wide is over the limit. The upper floor feels like it's gonna collapse at any time soon. Stretching the floor too far from the wall and frame makes the structure to look weak. I would say 7 blocks wide without any support in the center is the limit for material like wood planks. One easy way to avoid this is to add more beams across the room, or you could simply add a few pillars every 5 to 7 blocks for better support. Other than the interior width, the height also has a great psychological impact. Here's an example of how ceiling heights affect your mind. The lower the ceiling, the higher level of oppression you feel. 2 blocks tall, well, trust me, just don't. 3 blocks tall is comfortable, but the hanging lantern is way too close to your head. I feel stressed every time when I think my head is about to hit the lantern. 3.5 blocks tall feels nice, but you cannot put the hanging lantern under the ceiling. 4 blocks tall is my favorite as you feel spacious and your head won't hit the lantern. You can also put more decoration on the wall like a wall shelf. This explains why the height of the pillars in my aesthetic farms are mostly 5 blocks tall. Another quick tip is to use odd number for everything. The size of the house, the distance between pillars, the interior height, and etc. That's because odd number gives you a center which is good for symmetrical design. It is also good when it comes to the smallest details. You may not want your throne to be 2 blocks wide as we cannot sit in the center of 2 blocks. This doesn't feel right. The most common mistake for beginner is they build a house in a big square. I have to say square is the worst to start with. It is really difficult to make a squares to look interesting. What you really should do is to use rectangle as the basic shape of the house. For example, some of the aesthetic farm is rectangular like the tiny wool farmhouse, Evo's shulker storage house, and the animal breeding barn. However, sometimes a single rectangular box could be boring or too simple. So you can combine multiple rectangles in different ways to make it look even more interesting. Like you can combine 2 rectangles to make an L shape or a cross. For example, we have the Iron Farm starter house and the Auto Concrete farmhouse in L shape. Then we have the Creeper Farm mansion and the Sugarcane Farm greenhouse in the shape of a cross. You can even add more rectangles to make an H shape, like the Mel mansion that I built. Furthermore, you can also change the elevation and the size of each rectangular box to make it even more complex. One of the best examples is my villager training hall. The main body is a 2-story structure in middle. I add a lower structure at the front as entrance. Then I add another 2 structure on both sides for the villagers. This is how I turn a boring giant box into something unique and interesting to look at. You can also try different shapes like cylinder or a dome, just like the mob farm greenhouse tower. Just keep in mind that adding curves to your build could be a nice idea, but it can be also a nightmare to do. We have talked about the house structure, interior space, height, and the shape of the house. It's time to talk about the wall. There are 2 main ways to build wall. What you are seeing is 2 structures with the same interior space. The left one is to build the wall inside the frame. The right one is to build the frame outside of the wall. The good thing about the first one is that it saves you a lot of space and is also easier for beginner. But I personally prefer the right one because it gives more depth to the wall. More depth means more details for the wall decorations. Even though these 2 walls have a similar design, but the left one is clearly more eye-catching. It doesn't look flat the way it does on the right. The left one is the one that I use the most in my aesthetic farms. And of course, you are not limited to only one method to build the frame and wall. You can use both depending on the space you have and what you prefer the most. Finally, it's time to talk about the roof. Perhaps the roof is the most difficult stage for any beginner. Most people struggle to come up with something that looks right and suitable for their house. The most basic roof you can build is this one with a slope of 45 degrees. I think that's the easiest method and it's really beginner friendly. However, the common mistake is when the roof is just a big triangle or is a really long prism. The large plain surface is so boring to look at and the shape is way too simple. It kinda looks like the toy house you use in Monopoly. The first easy way to improve it is to add more shapes to the roof using the existing frame. As you can see, the roof is no longer plain and boring. It adds more planes to the surface, which is more dynamic for our eyes to see. Also, don't be afraid to try different roof designs. There are just so many ways to build a roof. That's why finding reference photo on Google really helps you to find the right roof design for you. Other than adding more shapes, you can also add different structure like dormer window, balcony, or a chimney to decorate the roof, so people have something to look at instead of a plain surface. Changing the house shape also improved the roof design. What I did here was adding 2 smaller rectangles to the original layout. The layout is now irregular and most of the time is a guarantee for a better roof design. If you can understand all these theories, I'm sure you can make some awesome and special roof designs too. For the block palette, I have to admit I'm not really good with this one. I'm not a creative person when it comes to picking blocks based on the color. But it is very easy for you to find inspiration by simply search block palette on Google. There is literally a website named Block Palettes for Minecraft. On the site, there are so many palettes for you to choose. You can also Google gradient build for some even more advanced building ideas. Some of these builds are really impressive. So far, the most impressive builder is Nabo on Instagram. I mean, what he builds is on another level. He's like a painter using Minecraft blocks. But to be honest, I'm not a big fan of gradient build because it's meant to be look good from far distance. If you take a closer look, you will start to see blocks like pumpkin and melon, which doesn't make sense as a building material. I'm more of a logical builder instead of an artistic one. I tend to actually spend time inside my builds, so that's why I care so much about structure and space and how it looks in close range. When I pick the material for my build, I always think about the material strength and the weight. Light stone is heavy and is only good for vertical support. That's why people make stone bridge in an arc shape. Wood is lighter and flexible, so it's common to be used as a beam in structure. You may not want to put stone bricks on some wooden sticks as it feels like it's crushing the wood. Like I said before, there is no gravity physics, but our brain is working differently. However, that's just my opinion. Feel free to try different block combinations and be creative. By creative, I do mean you should try it in creative mode. I believe survival mode limits our imagination and creativity. People tend to use the blocks they have on hand and the blocks that are easy to get. In creative mode, you can browse the creative menu for every block you can find in the game. Some blocks that you might not even know they exist. It is also easier and faster to test the ideas in creative because you can place and break the blocks instantly. You can also fly around for easier building and for a better view angle. What I always do when I design a new house is to take a few steps back to see how it looks from another angle. Not to mention all the mod and plugin you can use in creative. Filling a space or replacing the blocks with just a few clicks. When you finish a build in creative, it also gives you the motivation to go collect some hard to get materials in survival, because you know that it's going to look awesome in your build. So be creative in creative. Decorating a house is purely a process of trial and error. You just keep trying to put different blocks together in a tight space and hoping it looks good. It's really tricky to do small details as Minecraft blocks are actually 1 meter cube, which is really big in real life. I recommend looking for reference to see the creative ideas made by others. One of the best creators is Real Design on Instagram. He makes so many creative ideas for both interior and exterior. Go take a look at his work and I'm sure you will learn something new every time. Besides that, I do have a few tips for you to avoid some common mistakes. First, you should avoid over-repetitive design. For example, if you have a large wall with many windows, it could be repetitive and boring if all the windows have the same design. Try to add variation to the wall design to break that repetitive pattern. Second, avoid over-detailing as it might cause fatigue to our eyes. Our eyes love looking at well-decorated things, but they also easily get tired when there are too many things to look at. Avoid adding too many details to one spot. Third, don't forget the structure and support when you are adding new structures. Like when you add a balcony to the side of a house. Make sure you have support for that so it doesn't look like floating in the mid-air. The same goes to awning, wall planter, extended roof, and etc. To conclude that, it's totally alright to borrow ideas from others' work or following YouTube building tutorial. There are many people telling me that they learn different building techniques from my aesthetic farm tutorial, which some of my techniques were actually inspired by other builders. Copying is a common method to learn from existing knowledge. The only exception is when someone like Day6 who copied my aesthetic farm tutorial and didn't give me any credit. They even copied the music I used and claimed that they made the original farm design. Shameless. Anyway, remember this. Being creative is a good thing, but it doesn't mean the thing you create is good. That's why I emphasize so much on taking reference from existing creation in real life or in Minecraft. Make use of people's knowledge and experience. There's reason and logic why some of our creations are looking better than others. Comment below to let me know what you think about my first building tutorial. Drop a like and press the subscribe button if you haven't. Happy building, and don't forget to check Pine Hosting and use my code aJackMC for 30% off discount. See you in next video.